safe space.
Safe space.
Safe space.
Safe space.
Safe space.
A place where I can be free.
Somewhere I feel like I won't be judged.
My bedroom.
A place without fear.
Hi, and welcome to Safe Space, a podcast for open, honest, and deeply human conversations about mental well-being. I'm your host, Pauline Wanyonyi, and I'm really glad you're here today. This episode took me way back to high school, and I could almost immediately remember how stressful that period in my life was. That feeling of panic and fear, the fear of failure, the fear that this could be the end of the road for you. There was this constant drumming into our minds about how KCSE, our final high school exams, were going to make or break you. And honestly, I don't think any of us could escape the pressure, no matter how supportive a community you had. And unfortunately, for some people, the pressure was not only from school, but also from home. Looking back at it now, with the knowledge that I have, I can clearly see how many of my classmates were experiencing serious mental health challenges that, in my opinion, were a direct result of this pressure. I have often reflected on that time and asked myself what the long-term impact of that pressure and stress has been on us. In this episode, our storyteller speaks about their journey through high school, the pressure they felt, and how that pressure impacted their mental health. I'm sure there are many of us who will relate to this story.
I did 844, which a lot of people from Kenya did back then. It's not really the thing that's there now. But yeah, I guess that also plays into the relevance of my story. At the time, I was, gearing up for KCSE, Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education. And I think just being in an 844 environment, it's said to be, the life of your exam. The exam of your life. So for me, already that was a very high pressure environment, given that my family and my dad and my background and all of that. I am the firstborn from in my family rather. So there was a great deal of expectations from my parents and I guess from the immediate family as well for me to perform well, and getting into that season, I felt that extreme pressure to perform and I guess be whoever they wanted me to be and achieve whatever they wanted me to achieve. I did notice a significant shift, especially towards the exams and even after the exams, when I just started to become numb to a lot of things, to pain, to happiness, to joy. Like I didn't feel much. So yeah, I could say it was a slow but steady shift. The ideation started, I guess, around Form 3, in a sort of comical way. Looking back on it now, it's comical. Back then I was into anime and manga and a lot of Japanese culture. And one of the things that I came across is that samurais would disembowel themselves as a method of suicide, and they considered that a sort of honorable death. So that was, I guess, the first time that I came across such material. And I played with the idea in my mind, but never really, I was definitely fully aware, fully present in terms of what suicide was. But at the time, for me, it was more from my own perspective. I thought of it as a break, as, rest, sort of relief from everything that was going on in my life at the time. I mentioned it to a good friend of mine at the time. I'll actually never forget that conversation. We were on phone call and I told her, I think I actually hate myself. And she said, yeah, I figured as much. I know. That surprised me. But it surprised me because I always thought of myself as someone that was hard to read. So yeah, for that reason, it surprised me. But other than that, it gave me some kind of relief to know that maybe I'm not so alone. Maybe I'm not so buried in this by myself. As far as help and resources go, I think at the time there was still so much stigma around suicide, and it was just the taboo material of it that I came across. So so and so committed suicide, so and so from this family has committed suicide. Suicide is a bad thing. Around the time I was in debate club, and I guess a hot topic was whether or not suicide should be criminalized. So in terms of help, or even a positive outlook on suicide, there was really not much. In my experience, what stood out for me, or what was a significant turning point, is when I would consume gore content and horror and really not really feel anywhere about it. It was, I could watch, some of the most horrific things and still fall asleep and go on like nothing happened. So for me, that was significant. In that, for me, it marked a point that I would be okay with the pain. I would be okay with whatever method I chose to end my life, because I had already seen so many lives end and I didn't really feel anywhere about it. So my life really in that moment it would go with just equal amount of disregard. No, not much emotion would come of it. There wasn't really one point in time that things changed direction. I think for me, my journey was sort of like a slow dip into suicide and the thought process around it, and equally it was a slow climb out of it. So I think what really helped me, I guess, get out of myself and my head is just being present with my friends from high school. Back then we would take any and every opportunity to go to the gym, and I guess slowly just being present with them, going through, I guess, hard workouts, brought me back to who I was. Back then it was mainly those two things. Since then, I think I've grown a lot. I've managed to interact with a lot of positive material. So for right now, what I could say that really helps me on a day-to-day basis is still physical activity. And secondly, just getting to know myself a bit better, knowing what makes me happy, knowing when is time for me to maybe pull back from loud environments. I'm introverted, heavily introverted, so a lot of the time guarding my energy and on a day-to-day basis is caring for my body, caring for my mind. So that's in terms of reading, and caring for my soul. I'm trying to get back on the religious bandwagon, so trying to build up my faith once again. I don't think suicide or suicidal ideations are a bad thing per se. I think we should have more spaces just like this to be able to talk about suicide ideations, and break the stigma, break the silence really around it. Because from my experience, I think everyone that is suicidal is, I guess, or having suicidal ideations is at the heart of it trying to break free from something, trying to break free from pain, from a kind of anguish. So I think the main taboo there is just to break the silence. My perceptions or ideations of suicide have had a more positive outlook or a more empathetic outlook. I think that would be the better word. Previously, it was, again, I was looking at suicide from the lens of society, that, it's a bad thing. It's something to be silenced, frowned upon, and swept under the carpet. But over time, that has evolved to be, how can we talk about it? How can we hold space for it? How can we give people the tools, the resources for them to be informed, get help, and hopefully stay alive. Right now, I would tell anyone struggling with suicide ideations to get professional help. And heavy emphasis on professional. There's a lot of quacks out there who think they know what they're doing, but really and truly they're not qualified for it, and they do more often than not end up doing more harm than good. So for me, it would be get the professional help. Talk to someone who is certified and qualified as far as mental health goes, to walk that journey with you. And I would also say there's absolutely nothing wrong with struggling. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with being in a bad place. I shared my story because I hope through this someone struggling with suicide would be able to resonate with what I've shared and find hope that, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I have become a strong proponent of mental health and raising awareness and getting people to be more aware of the things so that they don't have to go through what I went through. So yeah, for me, really and truly is to help someone. Yeah, that's the reason I'm sharing.
It's very common for us to joke about the intense pressure of our education system, while sometimes discussing how it made us resilient and competent. The question that always comes to mind is, at what cost? What are we willing to sacrifice, all in the name of competence and resilience? Could it possibly be time for us to reflect on our systems, on the amount of harm they have done and are probably still doing to us? What would high school or school in general have been like, or what could they be like if students have the necessary tools and resources to help them manage their mental health? I don't have all the answers, but I believe that asking questions is a good place to start. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you to our storyteller for sharing their story with us. This episode was brought to you by the Artistic Psychologist. We would love to have you as part of our community, so subscribe to this podcast and follow us on our social media platforms. All links are in the episode notes. And finally, I'd like to leave you with a reminder. You're here, you're listening, and that matters. See you next time.